Hey there. You know, when we see all these headlines about the environment, it is so easy to feel, well, powerless, right? But what if I told you the most powerful solutions aren't happening at some big global summit? What if they're happening in small towns, on tiny islands? Today, we're going to dive into a few incredible stories that prove a small group of people can absolutely change the world around them.
I mean, let's be real for a second. When you hear about melting ice caps or another species on the brink, it's paralyzing. The problem just feels so massive, doesn't it? It's totally natural to think, what can I, just one person, possibly do? So many of us feel that way, like we're just one tiny piece in this giant, overwhelming puzzle. But the stories we're about to get into, they're all built on this one simple idea. They're about people who just didn't wait for someone else to fix things. Nope, they started small, right in their own backyard, and they prove that when it comes to making a real difference, every single little act truly matters. So let's kick things off with our first story from Thailand.
All right, our first stop is in Thailand, and this is a story where the survival of one of the world's rarest birds literally came down to one single patch of land. And the solution? It wasn't some complicated government policy. It was pure people power.
456. Just let that number sink in. That's it. That's how many spoon-billed sandpipers are estimated to be left in the entire world. Not in one park, not in one country, on the whole planet. We are talking about a species that is right on the absolute edge of disappearing forever.
So here's the unbelievable journey these little birds take. They're sometimes called the queens of the flyway, and they fly an epic 8,000 kilometers all the way from their breeding grounds in Arctic Russia. And after all that, their entire journey ends at one single crucial spot, this small patch of coastal wetland in Thailand. That's their winter home.
But, of course, there's a problem. A huge one. This vital rest stop, this one place they need to survive, was disappearing. It was being converted, piece by piece, into commercial salt farms. Their safe haven was literally shrinking. And look, when you only have 456 birds left in the world, losing their winter home isn't just a problem, it's a death sentence. Game over.
So what do? Well, the solution here wasn't some big protest or a complicated legal battle. It was direct action. A local conservation group got together, raised 8 million baht, that's about $250,000, and they just bought the land, all 49 acres. Just like that. They secured a permanent home for these birds forever. It's just such a powerful reminder, you know? Sometimes the simple solution is the absolute best one.
Okay, so that's one project, one piece of land. But what happens when an entire community decides to make a change? Let's zoom out a bit and look at two different islands, also in Thailand, that cooked up their own incredible, homegrown solutions to two totally different problems.
So, on one hand, you've got Koh Shok. This is an island completely off the national power grid. No electricity from the mainland. Then you have Koh Mak, a tourist spot trying to figure out how to welcome visitors without destroying the beautiful paradise they're all coming to see. So yeah, two very different challenges. But the cool thing is, both solutions came from the people who live there, working together to build the future they wanted.
The story of Kojik is, well, it's just amazing. For years, they had zero electricity. Can you imagine? They asked the government for help, but nothing happened. So the village headman just decided, fine, we'll do it ourselves. And they did. Today, a community-owned solar farm powers all 400 residents. People are saving a ton of money, they've banned all gas-powered vehicles on the island, and, get this, they actually sell their carbon credits to huge international companies like Apple. They went from having no power at all to being this shining example of green energy. Incredible.
All right, now let's hop over to Koh Mak. The families who own most of this island could have easily cashed in, sold out to big developers for mass tourism, but they didn't. Instead, they made a pact with each other. They came up with a set of rules to protect the island's vibe. Things like, nope, no loud jet skis or banana boats. We're not doing that here. No businesses blaring music after 10 p.m. No chairs and vendors cluttering up the beaches. Every single resort has to treat its own wastewater, and the whole community has to separate their waste. They made a choice, sustainability over a quick buck.
So, does this community-first approach actually work? Well, a while back, a massive bleaching event devastated their coral reefs, so the islanders started their own restoration project. And it took years of trial and error, but what they finally achieved is this, a staggering 90% survival rate for the new corals they planted. We're talking over 60,000 successful corals bringing their entire marine ecosystem back to life. That's pure community determination right there.
Okay, so these stories are obviously super inspiring, but they're not just stories to listen to and say, wow, the whole point is to ask, okay, how can we take that same spirit, that same idea of direct action, and bring it into our own lives wherever we happen to be?
So how do you start your own ripple effect? Well, it starts with these small conscious choices. First, rethink your travel. Maybe that means walking or cycling more or carpooling. It all adds up. Second, reduce your waste. This is huge. Saying no to single-use plastics, composting your food scraps, these are things we can all do. Third, think about where your money goes. Choose to support local businesses and brands that are actually trying to do the right thing for the planet. And finally, number 4, use your voice. Don't be afraid to talk about these issues with your friends, your family. Spreading awareness is a powerful action in itself. It's about taking that feeling of someone should do something and turning it into we can do something.
So, that's where we'll leave it. Think about it. The people who saved those birds, the islanders on Kojik and Comox, they weren't trying to save the entire planet. They just saw a problem right in front of them, in their community, and they decided to fix it. They started one small ripple. And that brings us to the final question. What ripple will you start today? Thanks so much for joining me.